There was shame to it, and yet the shame was not outweighed by the pleasure of it.
Nancy Anderson knew better. She was raised by godly parents, went to a Bible college, and was herself, well, a Christian.
So I kept it a secret from anyone who would tell me to knock it off. I became an expert liar because adultery and lying go together.
It was back at college that she first met Ron.
My premise in getting married was that Ron was going to make me happy, that he fix me, that he meet my need, that he read my mind, that he know what I needed before I even knew what I needed.
I was a jerk. I was a jerk as a husband, and consequently my wife responded in a negative way as well.
They loved each other, they loved God, but found marriage a whole lot harder than they expected.
We fought about everything. We fought about, once we were married, we fought about money, we fought about time, we fought about, you said this, or I said this, or you didn't live up to my expectations, or I'm disappointed about this.
As a couple, we did not have a spiritual unity. And so because of that, I started to drift away from the Lord, as a couple, but also individually.
So Nancy became open to other ideas about what might make her happy.
One of the women at work said, well, I was complaining about Ron, and she says, well, dump him. If you're not happy, life's too short to be unhappy. I just took the easy road out and started flirting, basically, with the man at work.
Which led to secret lunches and dinners, and then time away from home.
I figured, okay, if that's fine if you need a couple of days by yourself. Well, I didn't know that there was another man involved.
Along with the excitement, Nancy felt guilty, especially when something pricked her conscience, like the radio.
He said, if you will stop your sinning and repent, God will forgive you. And that made me so angry because I didn't want to stop.
And she's now comes back after 4 weeks and says, I want a divorce. I'm in trouble. Now it's starting to, the reality is setting in. I've got a big problem here.
It all came to a head when Nancy got a call from her worried parents.
I managed to lie to my mother, but I can't lie to my dad. And even from 2,000 miles away, prayer is a powerful thing. And that prayer began to pierce my heart. And I knew that the Lord would be faithful. I didn't know what the outcome would be.
Then Nancy prayed her own prayer and knew what she needed to do.
Which I knew would break his heart and mine. My emotions were still connected to him. I didn't love my husband. And I knew it was just that simple and just that horrifically difficult.
Then it was time for the big moment. Ron came home early from a convention.
There she was. It was the first time we actually talked without yelling at each other in many, many a night.
Nancy told him everything, including what he suspected, but hoped wasn't true.
But she's choosing to choose me instead of him. I was more concerned with keeping the conversation going at the level it was going. So I wasn't devastated pridefully.
The next day, Nancy phoned the office to quit her job.
And the president said, you're doing the right thing. No job is worth your marriage.
Out of obedience, I broke up with Jake. Ron and I actually both talked to him.
What was that like?
Well, it was rather calm, considering what it could have been if he'd have been there in the room with me.
Ron and Nancy decided to go to her parents for help. They told them there was still something they had to do.
Ron, I reached across the table and I said, I've betrayed you. Physically, emotionally, spiritually, I have no defense, no excuse. I don't deserve forgiveness, but I am asking for it anyway.
Were you afraid that he might not give it?
I just didn't know if he could do it once he knew the whole truth.
And the Lord, in an instant, gave me the ability to forgive her. I never had difficulty talking about it. I never had a pride issue with it. It never bothered my ego. I gave it to the Lord. He took care of it.
Now, many years later, Ron and Nancy remember well what it was like to rebuild.
As we were trying to get back on track, we were going like this. And eventually, we started going like that. it took about 3 years, wouldn't you say, before we really felt like we were, wow, this is getting to be great again.
We were not very good at noticing when the other person did it right. But we were really quick to notice when there was a mistake.
Right.
So both of us had to learn that compliments are like magnets.
Finding out what made her feel loved as a woman. God made her a certain way, and I had to learn to understand that. Some of the fellows say, oh, you know, I don't know if my wife did that, I don't know. And I tell them, I said, you know, with the grace of God, you will be amazed at what you can get through.
And then it grew back into the romance and the love, and now it's all those things combined.
Right.
I can tell the people, look, the grass is not greener. I've been to the other side. There's weeds. It's a horrible place. It will destroy you. Don't go there.